I am here with Malcome Laverne, and Malcome, let's just get right to it. The earliest eligible possible release date for O.J. Simpson is October 1st. Will he be a free man on that day? Will he be walking out of prison?
The answer is highly, highly unlikely. You mentioned it, and you said it correctly. October 1, 2017 is Mr. Simpson's earliest eligible release date, and that was stated at the parole hearing, and I'll state it now. That doesn't necessarily mean an inmate gets out on the date of their parole, their eligible parole date. It is very common practice. Ask any criminal defense attorney out here, or even ask the parole and probations. An inmate can go 2, 3 days, a couple of weeks, and even extreme cases, even a couple of months after their eligible parole date, they're still in custody, making housing arrangements. Certain logistics don't get done correctly. Now, you can tell right now, October 1st is a Sunday. So that should tell you right there that he's not getting out on Sunday because, you know, the state, other than essential workers, people, there's no one to really transport him anywhere on a Sunday. So that's an eligible release date plan.
The plan, one would assume, would be to get him out as close to October 1st as possible.
Mr. Simpson is responsible for making his arrangements to get out and to get the things that necessarily done that gets him out of prison quicker. I've done my part, which is to get within the parole at the parole hearing. So now the burden is on him to make all of those arrangements. He can keep me updated. We definitely talk, but those burdens are on him at this point. I'm not going to make his arrangements for him.
When did you last speak to him, and what did he tell you?
I spoke last week, and it came under unfortunate circumstances. What happened was a news outlet contacted me and had informed me that Mr. Simpson had been moved. They said, and we want you to verify it. And I immediately panicked, and I started, we move where, for what? What reason? Did someone harm him in prison? I really, really panicked and thought that something really bad had happened to him. And it turns out it was false. Mr. Simpson hadn't moved from Lovelock, which is where he's been the last 9 years. And so I was very upset about that. You know, imagine if I called you, if you're a mother, and I call you and your child's like, hey, I heard your kid was in a wreck and he's over at the hospital. Can you verify that for me? And, you know, it would upset you. So this upset me. And so that's why I'm coming on right now to kind of educate people as to how this process actually works. So we spoke Friday. He's in Lovelock. He's fine. He's still making his arrangements to get out.
The Nevada Department of Corrections has said that he will be moved to High Desert State Prison right outside of Las Vegas as part of the release process. What do you know about that?
I don't know much about it. I do know that I've spoken to Brooke Keast, who's the public information officer. I spoke to her probably a few weeks ago. They still technically have custody over Mr. Simpson. They still technically can move Mr. Simpson wherever they please. I think I would know and have a heads up, even if it's only a day before or even only if it's only a couple hours before, where Mr. Simpson is going to be moved to. So if that's what the department is saying, you know, fine, but I believe that Mr. Simpson would advise me of when he's going to be moved, so I may get a call, but I can't confirm or deny that at this time.
They have said, and I believe that Ms. Keast told the Associated Press that there were plans in place to move him on Monday, to release him on Monday, assuming, of course, that that would be the push, is to get out as quickly as possible.
I don't have any reason to doubt them, but unless it comes from the mouth of my client, I'm not going to confirm or deny anything, especially after what happened last week. Mr. Simpson's keeping me updated on his plans or his progress and what he's trying to do. And so ultimately, High Desert is just one of the release points, just like Northern Nevada is one of the release points. So that doesn't mean he necessarily gets out even on a Monday, even if he's even moved that day. And remember, it's a 7-hour, it's not like he's getting a private plane from Lovelock to High Desert. That's at least a minimum 7-hour drive, you know, in a van transport or whatever they use to transport the inmates down. So there's a lot of logistical concerns there, but I do believe that I would know in advance. Mr. Simpson would notify me in advance of when this is going to happen.
What has he told you about his plans? He had previously said during the parole hearing that he might relocate to Florida to be closer to his children. Of course, there has to be paperwork filed with the Florida Parole Board for that to happen. As of today, that paperwork has not been filed. Are those his plans, or is there something else in the works?
Well, listen, he's going to Florida. The paperwork with Florida, the Florida Department of Corrections, or excuse me, the Florida Department of Parole and Probation over there, that could be as long as 45 days, but just to give you a cue, it could be short as just a few days. I mean, that's it. You remember at the hearing, normally those parole hearings, the one that happened in July, those parole hearings usually take 2 weeks to get a decision on those issues, but when certain things are, you know, of someone's Mr. Simpson's fame and notoriety and all of the attention it attracted, they actually brought all 4 commissioners on and held that hearing that day and made a decision that day, just to get rid of the insanity. So just with that in mind, keep in mind that with Florida, does Florida, do you really want to process long and drawn out a whole media circus surrounding Florida now? So this is a process that could take a very short amount of time, but up to 45 days. Just remember that.
So he could come out, stay in the Las Vegas area, for example, while that paperwork is being processed?
Well, he could be transported to high desert, but until he actually has official housing plans, he remains in the Nevada Department of Corrections and in their custody until they're satisfied that he has adequate housing and adequate conditions for his release.
And you have no information about what that immediate housing plan is the day he steps foot out of our prison system?
No.
Is there any concern regarding the move to High Desert State Prison? You had mentioned his fame and his notoriety, of course. Is there concern about potential security issues or accommodations at a new facility where, he hasn't been in the past?
The Nevada Department of Corrections have been phenomenal for 9 years in keeping Mr. Simpson safe, making accommodations, reasonable accommodations based on his fame and notoriety. Mr. Simpson's been a good inmate to them as well. He's really tried to keep a low profile and be just one of the guys in prison. I have every confidence in the Nevada Department of Corrections from the top all the way on to the bottom that they will continue to ensure Mr. Simpson's safety as long as he's in their custody. So I'm very, very pleased with how they've treated Mr. Simpson, all things considered.
Has he told you how he's feeling? What's his mood as he looks toward being out of prison for the first time in so many years?
He is getting very, very excited. Now, I have to tell you, right after the parole hearing, they changed his custody status. He was in general population. He had jobs, multiple jobs. He's a commissioner of a softball league. He had freedom among all of the inmates, and these were his colleagues. These were guys he would, just banter around with, and they did things together. But that was taken away from him right after the hearing. They decided to put him in a more secure area for his own protection, just to be on the safe side, and that kind of bored him out a lot. So he was just basically alone, not completely isolated, but certainly didn't have that collegial attitude, and he was just bored to tears after that. So it was a little bit of a bummer for him for the first few weeks, maybe even a month. But ultimately, his spirits have picked up, and he's getting more and more excited as he anticipates, where his plans are and what he's going to do. So he's doing well right now. He's feeling very upbeat.
And with this early eligible or this release date coming so quickly, one would assume, based on what you just said, that he really does want to get out on October 1st.
Well, he wants to get out as early, I think, as he can to his earliest eligible release date. That's certain. That's true. But he's got to make those arrangements. That burden is on him, so he's got to get it done. I'm not losing any sleep that he's going to be staying in there because he's got to get it done on his own, and he has the resources to get it done. So it's his burden to get it done, not mine.
Are you surprised that you haven't heard yet, knowing that he could be out as soon as, let's say, Monday, as far as the first business day? Are you surprised you haven't heard what his solid plans are yet?
No, not at all. As a matter of fact, I've made it very clear to him that this is his obligation. If he wants to keep me updated, he can. Obviously, my only concern is that when he gets for me personally, as his lawyer, is that when he actually is assigned a parole officer, that I actually inform the parole officer and have a little chat with them, because we've had a lot of people who've monetized Mr. Simpson's fame. Public servants who monetize Mr. Simpson's fame and notoriety, they've done that locally. I'm not even mentioning their names on the local shows right now. A judge, and then a police officer doing the investigations, all right? Bragging about sentencing him to 33 years in prison on reality judge shows. So we have that going on. I just want to make sure that whoever his parole officer is going to be, he or she, that I can vet them properly so that I can see whether they're this similar type of attention-seeking people. Because if they have ability, the story for them could be, well, listen, I can now write my own book or get some kind of reality show because I tripped Mr. Simpson up and tried to do something to get him put back in prison. All right? So I want to be cautious and make sure that this person is properly vetted. And if I don't like them, then I'm going to complain to the proper authorities to have someone who isn't interested in attention-seeking or similar fame-type behavior. So that's something I'm going to be very stern about. But I've explained this to Mr. Simpson. Other than that, I don't have any obligations at this time for Mr. Simpson. It's his obligation. He can call me and keep me updated. If there's administerial matters to deal with, more than happy to help him.
Will that long arm of vetting reach to Florida?
Oh yeah. It certainly will, because remember, Florida is only going to be on an interstate compact with the Nevada Department of Parole and Probation. The way it works is that if someone accuses Mr. Simpson of violating, which I presume will happen. I mean, there are I can just tell you and sit here for 3 hours telling you the wackiest stories I've heard about Simpson, and every one of them are false. You know, I spend, you know, it's tremendous burden on my law practice to deal with every OJ fanatic and every lie out there with Mr. Simpson, okay? So it's ultimately up to the Nevada Department of Parole and Probation to sign a warrant if Mr. Simpson is actually going to be considered for revocation. They have to sign the warrant. So I will be in contact. I will have control over that by simply, or, you know, as much control as an advocate can have, by being in touch with the Nevada Department of Parole and Probation, who ultimately would have to sign the warrant from any parole violation report.
Safe to say you don't necessarily anticipate this going super smoothly, and you anticipate some bumps along the way.
I anticipate it going smoothly because I'm going to be very prepared in advance. That's one of the things I'm going to deal with, and I'll deal with a couple of other things in advance. So I don't anticipate anything going wrong with Mr. Simpson other than a bunch of people saying a bunch of falsehoods about him. That's all I anticipate. That's it. Mr. Simpson he's had perfect performance as a prisoner. I anticipate he's going to have perfect performance as a parolee. And then when that terminates, he'll be fine. He's going to play. He was a retiree before this. He's going to be a retiree after this. He's going to play golf. He's going to like his family and friends. I think he's going to be a lot more in tune to the plight of inmates or the downtrodden now, since he's spent 9 years with a lot of people who had a lot less fortune than he did and didn't enjoy the success and the fame that he did. And I mean, they've never. You know, a lot of inmates have experienced. If you know anything about them, everything from their birth has been miserable. And their whole system has been. He's enjoyed a lot of fame, and he's now had to see this with a lot of inmates, and that's really made him a lot more sympathetic towards the needs and the plights of people who are in the prison systems.
His situation being used as an example or a catalyst for things is coming up now. Gloria Allred has talked about getting a new law passed, basically, that would take into account an inmate's history of domestic violence, that the parole board would take that into account. I know she suggested a new law after Simpson's statements before the Nevada Parole Board hearing, that his conviction for violence against Nicole Brown Simpson, in which he pleaded no contest all the way back in 1989, would have played a role if this
except it wasn't a conviction. I mean, TMZ did their reporting. This started with the New York Times. Let me back up. Gloria Allred, God bless her, she's a marketing genius. You gotta like her. You got to admire someone who's just that good of a marketing genius. You really do. She doesn't know anything about Nevada law. She's not a lawyer here, but she goes and she teams up with some first-term assemblywoman who I don't know if she's a lawyer yet or not. I know she's flunked the bar from what I heard. I don't know what her deal is, but you know, she tags up. But you just gotta like Gloria Allred for her marketing genius and her intuition. But let's address the merits of this. First of all, Mr. Simpson was not convicted in 1989, and that was just established. The New York Times ran a shoddy report. I talked to this reporter 2 weeks before he ran the article. He didn't know whether there was a conviction or not, and I said, well, go do your research, go do your homework. He said, okay, he's going to look into it a little bit more, and then he published an article that was basically left the same in time as when we talked 2 weeks before that. Now it's coming up again and saying, well, it's a conviction. Is it a conviction or not conviction? I said, listen, I've told all of them. I said, look, if it's a conviction, I'll deal with it, no problem. If it's really a conviction, I'll deal with it. I'll report it to the parole and probation and said, hey, here's a conviction. If it wasn't called to your attention, what do you want to do? Do you want to reconsider his parole? Whatever you want to do. I'm a lawyer. That's my obligation. Full disclosure. I would have done that, all right? But no one could get it right. No one could get it right. And it took TMZ of all the media organizations actually digging into the file itself and looking at the codes and these very highly technical things that lawyers have to do to see that it actually had been expunged. Just because something is showing up online doesn't mean that it wasn't expunged, but TMZ confirmed it yesterday. So TMZ over the New York Times and over the Associated Press literally confirmed yesterday that it was not a conviction what happened in 1989. So that's debunked. The other issues that Ms. Allred addressed, this is already the state of the law. The parole board will consider convictions, and they will consider domestic violence convictions if you've actually been convicted of them. So she's advocating for laws that already exist, okay? That's it. I think she may have mentioned, now I haven't had the time to see her actual press conference itself. I did see a letter that she released because she does the press releases first and she gets it all together and gets the organizations together. Listen, I really admire Gloria Allred for her marketing genius. I'll say it one more time, she's great. So this issue of the civil judgment, listen, this will never come into play because the parole and probation deals with criminal cases. People have been convicted beyond a reasonable doubt, very high burden in a whole different system. Civil system is a completely different system. It is. They may be the same courtroom, but they're completely different systems, okay? civil lawsuits, as the one that the most famous one against Mr. Simpson, it's a private party civil lawsuit. Okay, you can win those. Mr. Simpson didn't even have to answer that lawsuit. He could have went into default, and they could have gotten a judgment against him that way. That can't happen in a criminal case. Someone has to be brought to justice, and there has to be tremendous procedural requirements done. So the probation would never consider some type of, not only what if what Ms. Allred is doing is advocating a that civil convictions should come in, or civil judgments should come in. They're not convictions, they're judgments, should come in. I would argue against that all day long, because who knows how a civil judgment, you would come by a civil judgment. You just may not even answer a civil judgment and you have a conviction. And then that brings in a whole lot of other things. Should a guy who's currently serving time in prison on any number of charges, if he owes a debt and has a civil judgment of $1,000 from a credit card issue, should the board now deny him parole? That gets us into like indentured servitude and slavery type issues when you start talking about civil debts and keeping someone detained longer than they should be because they owe a little bit of money to somebody, or even a lot of money to somebody. So that part of it can be debunked. I'm not sure if Allred advocated for the civil part of it being considered, but she definitely advocated for the history of domestic violence convictions. And the only message I have to say to her is, that's already the state of the law, okay?
Let's one more question before we go. You have said that you've been a little disappointed in some of the media coverage and that there's been a bit of a feeding frenzy, so to speak, around OJ for quite some time now. Is there one thing that you can isolate as maybe the biggest disservice or piece of misinformation that's been out there?
Disappointed. The most accurate word I would use is probably just fascinated. I am fascinated with the level of intensity and the level of coverage that still surrounds Mr. Simpson.
All these years later.
Yeah, it's kind of a thing where you got to be careful what you ask for, because most lawyers like to have a celebrity client or a big marquee. If you're a big business lawyer, you want to have a big marquee name client. And of course, having Simpson as a client, celebrity client, a notorious client, that's something that every lawyer deep down kind of desires a little bit. But when you're getting 20, 30 phone calls a day, every day, 10, 15 emails a day, every day, that can be a little bit disheartening. But the only thing I have at the end of the day is what just recently happened with this idea that Mr. Simpson had a conviction, a 1989 domestic, or I think it was called spousal abuse. Who knows? Obviously TMZ did their work. I would go to TMZ and rely on what they did. But this actual conviction that turns out it didn't exist because it's been expunged, and that's why the parole and probation rightfully didn't consider it. That's probably the most annoying thing, because I asked those reporters to do their work, do their job, and make your best efforts, and whatever it would be, I'll report it. Conviction, I'll go right to the parole board myself, not because that's something that influenced me. People might think that I'm the one trying to hide something. I knew about this 1989 case, but it turned out that it was exactly like I said it was. Didn't result in a conviction.
Thank you very much for your time and for speaking with us and for sharing this information. Of course, we'll all be looking forward to the next step. What happens next, when he goes and where he goes, and we'll be in touch to keep tabs and make sure we get it all straight. Malcome, thank you very much. Carla, we'll be tossing it back to you.